This next presentation is the first in our hindsight portion of the conference, looking in the rearview mirror. They say hindsight's 20/20, but that perfectly clear view is useless if you don't make a change based on what you saw or you learned. This applies to your business perspective too. How can you use hindsight to improve the ways you do things? What if the next time you went to a car race and all the cars are painted the same color? They've all got the same number on them. As a fan, how do you watch the race? Who do you root for? More importantly, how would the pit crew know when to tell their driver to pit for gas or for tires? How would anyone know where they were where their team was in relationship to the rest of the teams and the others on the track? Does your business operate in a similar manner, not knowing where they stand or what to do next? Are you and your employees operating blindly, not knowing what the next step should be? It's been said that data has become the central currency of corporate America, with nearly every industry adopting a quantitative mindset. You might think that we as woodworkers are exempt from reliance on data because we're a craft-based industry. Up next is a member of a team of data believers who would like to spend the next hour debunking that myth. Recently acquired by USA Millwork, Mission Bell is a company that is data-driven and has been for some time. Part of that is because of their location in the Silicon Valley, but it's a lot more than that. For those who were at our conference in 2018 in Denver, you enjoyed Christian Zorio's presentation about the technology trends. Not only did he provide an overview of the technology available today, but he also shared how they were using those tools at Mission Bell. We invited Christian back for this conference. However, he had a family emergency and is unable to attend. The good news is that his colleague, Trevor Cox, is going to present on his behalf, sharing how Mission Bell does more than just use technology. They also benefit from the data it produces. Please join me in welcoming Trevor.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So thank you for that introduction. As was mentioned, Christian had a family emergency, but I'm just happy to report that as of this morning, that emergency has been, according to him, 99% resolved. So I think a lot of you were here a couple years ago and met Christian, know what a great guy he is, and he really means a lot to our company, so we're really happy about that. Another thing about Christian is his speaking style, his presence, how he engages with the listeners. And you guys, he might have mentioned this, one of the reasons he's so good at that. Does anyone remember who was here 2 years ago? Because he used to be a pastor, so he used to do that every Sunday. So he has a ton of experience. I did not used to be a pastor. I've always been an operations guy, so I know I have big shoes to fill, so hopefully you guys will go easy on me. Can we switch this? I'll put up my presentation. Okay. Oh, that was Yellowstone. I took that picture with my phone, by the way. Okay, so I'll do a little background first on Mission Bell and USA Millwork, and then I'll get into the interesting stuff about data. So I'm going to try and use my mouse as a clicker, so hopefully it works. So commercial casework, architectural millwork. So over time, it's transitioned to less casework and more millwork. And one of the reasons for that is our location, San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley customers, and because of our expense, right? It's high rent, high cost of living. We're a union shop. It's easier to make cabinets elsewhere in other parts of the U.S. that can take advantage of their particular costs and then ship the cabinets in. So it used to be about 60% cabinets, 40% architectural millwork, and now it's probably flipped and still trending that way. Size of our shop, revenue, you guys can all see that. USA Millwork acquired us just in January. I've already been converted. I'm using the USA Millwork slide template. So let me just flip to that if I can. Oops. Let me flip back here. Do you see all these different names? Anyone heard of these shops in your region? Hopefully they don't compete with you in any way. Mostly they're larger shops like us do larger projects, so not too much overlap. And then we're in the process right now of figuring out how we all work together. But for now, you can really refer to us as Mission Bell. Our history, we've been around over 60 years, and we want to maintain that brand. A little bit about me. So I've only been in the industry for 2 years, but I've been a supply chain operations guy my whole career. So being in Silicon Valley, I worked mostly in high tech. There's a lot of solar in that region too. So I have a fair amount of construction experience, which actually lends itself well to our industry because of all the churn. Someone mentioned the trouble with scheduling, and that's, I think, really unique to the construction industry and the millwork industry as far as the chaos it creates, because you have to be able to conform to whatever the customer wants. Whereas if you're inside a factory, you can build a whole bunch of widgets and then leave them in finished goods, and it doesn't cause all this disruption. So listed the companies there, and I've done all sorts of things to do with operations, supply chain. Even the nice thing about supply chain, even though they're different industries, a lot of the same issues. And so, of course, we're going to focus on data today in our industry, but I can tell you that data is an issue everywhere. Okay. So, data, right? What does that mean? Can anyone give me like a data buzzword? Any fancy term for data? APIs. Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay, so I got some. Okay? So what do you guys think of these terms? Are you guys using any of this stuff today? Anyone in here? Okay, good, because we're not talking about that today. We're going to talk about simple stuff, okay? Simple stuff, practical stuff that we've been able to do at Mission Bell, and that I believe any shop can do. If you're a shop of if you're a mom and pop shop, if you're a shop of just a mom, you can do this. Okay, so that's the focus today, right? Is that I want to show you guys some things that we've done successfully that we could do right away, address real issues, and that we're able to get quick buy-in from other personnel in the shop. Okay. So, here's our approach. So Guy mentioned this a couple times. It seemed like it really annoyed him, charts and data and so forth, right? So I'm actually glad he mentioned it. It was a good preview for me too. Just getting data to create a chart to put on a wall somewhere, not a very good use of time, regardless of the size of your shop. And especially here, where a lot of you have much smaller shops, you're not going to go and do that. That's not what we believe either. Our approach was instead, okay, if we have a particular problem that's really causing us pain, costing us money, wasting time, upsetting customers, missing schedule, whatever, is there a way where we can get some data to fix that particular problem? So, you guys can read through these. Okay, all real data issues. Like the last one being the most silly, right? We lost track of the clipboard, right? And we weren't sure if the forklift was if we could use it. So, sound familiar? Anyone have any of these kind of problems or similar? Okay, good. I'm in the right place. So, let's talk about some. Let me try and get my mouse to work. Sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna focus on that first bullet of the last one. I'm gonna go into specific details with regards to inventory control at Mission Bell. And so, basically, what was happening? We're a big shop. We have a lot of projects going on all at once. A lot of the material is shared. We have, I think, 80 different shop personnel. We have 20 personnel who just do logistics delivery. And at that time, we had 8 personnel doing shipping and receiving. So all sorts of movements going on, right? Different people taking stuff for their particular need. Nobody wrote it down, right? So inevitably, what happens is that you run out of something, right? For whatever reason, right? Maybe not enough material was ordered. Maybe someone damaged the material. Maybe someone lost it. Maybe someone used the wrong stuff. We didn't know what happened. Impacts, obviously, cost, schedule, morale, because people, got in these arguments. You took it. No, you took it, right? And then project manager's upset, and ultimately the end customer is who suffers. So we had a term for it. Even it got so bad. Can anyone guess what LFS stands for? Looking for stuff, or it might stand for something else depending on your mood, right? So that was my challenge when I joined Mission Bell a couple years ago, is to figure out how to keep track of our inventory. So what can we do about it, right? We could go spend a couple $100,000 on some brand new software, take a year to get it up and running. We can run the whole thing off spreadsheets. We can do hard copies, clipboards, all that kind of thing. So, a smartphone form app. Sorry. So, if you guys have ever taken your car to your dealership, and a lot of times you'll get an email, how did we do, right? And you click on the link, you fill out the things you did, 1 to 5. I like this guy. I didn't like that person. Yes, I'll come back. So that's the concept that we're talking about here. If we can get people to fill something out using their phone, can we improve the data that we have and how we use it? Okay? So the nice thing about the ubiquitous nature of smartphones is that nearly everybody has them, right? Even if you're coming off the street, working in the shop and maybe an entry-level job, chances are you've got a smartphone, right? And if you've got a Wi-Fi network in your shop, you're not even gonna make them use any of their data. And there are apps available that anyone can use to help harness data. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we used a smartphone app specifically to address the inventory issue that I mentioned. Okay, so here's the process. So I'll show you guys the app. The particular product is called Fastfield that we use. There are other competing apps that offer similar capability. So we had to get that app loaded on people's phones. Someone will go in and fill it out and request inventory information. Receiving person receives that message, delivers the material, fills out a log. Okay? So let's pull it up. Okay. So this is, oops. Let me see if I can. Okay, this is going to be difficult. I'm going to have to look at the big screen and see what I'm doing. I'll try. Okay. Okay, so I mentioned that it's an app. Fastfield also has a web application too. So just to give you guys an idea, I'll try and show it to you here. So if you guys can kind of just look at this here, it's the exact same interface on your phone as to what's on the web app. So I'll show you guys this obviously so it's easier to see. So we'll go into this form, and it's called a material transfer order. And you get in very basic information. What department am I in? What's my name? Why am I asking for the material? When is it needed? And then we always operate by job, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do. And then if there's a project name and then a task number, and then we always want to know the specific project manager's name. So what kind of materials do we need? So we'll just say 10 sheets, 3/4 plywood. Oops. And then you can take a picture if you want. Okay, so before I submit this, I'm going to show you guys the log. So I mentioned that there's a log that the receiving personnel will use. So every time the submitter will submit something, there's a log that this will get added to for the person in receiving. And they'll see this pop up. They have these screens up in the receiving offices and in the shop. And they'll say, okay, so-and-so wants this material. Here's when they want it. Now I need to go get it. Okay? So just remember that we're on row 15249, and then once I go back. Oh, sorry. Okay, if everything works properly, we should see the result. Okay, so I just submitted that and it just showed up here. And now what the receiver will do is actually fill out this log once they deliver the material. So the receiving owner will fill it out, turns to blue, saying, okay, that means I got it. And once they deliver it, sorry, I filled up my field. Once they deliver it, then it turns gray. That means it's done. Okay, so why does this, let me go back to my slides. So this is in the receiving office, they'll be using this form. These are the shop guys here that are actually filling out this same form, and they'll also a log here. So instead of somebody random just grabbing the material, asking for the material, we use this log. Okay? So we know exactly who wants the material, when they want it, what they want, and then there's accountability on the receiving side because they will actually deliver the material and fill out a log to say, okay, I located the material and I delivered it to you. Okay? So we were out of control as far as inventory. No one knew what was going on. What do you guys think happened once we implemented this? Got more chaos? No, it got better. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking about it if it got worse. Okay, so now we had actual data. Okay, the biggest improvement that we saw from implementing this is that we actually when stuff still got misplaced, right? But we knew that if they were using the log, we could identify who asked for the material and how much. For example, someone could have said, hey, I wanted 8 sheets. We could have accidentally delivered 9. But then we'll be able to root cause it by looking at that log and identify the mistake. So the other thing that happened is because the shop personnel stopped going and grabbing their own material and only the receiving personnel grabbing the material based on that request, everyone knew that they were on notice. Oh, okay, now there's a record. My name's on that form. I'm not going to break the rules. Okay? So we keep track of our inventory accuracy every week. So we do a sample count of X amount of sample inventory. So the system will say, you should have 10 pieces of this type of material, and then we count whether or not we have 10. And if we don't, then we get marked off. We mark ourselves off. So this is how the accuracy of the inventory improved over time. by using the system. Okay? Make sense? Questions about it?
So the way you refined your inventory process, when somebody was receiving something, could anybody from the shop receive it, or do you have a designated shipper receiver?
Could any from there's designated personnel, receiving personnel that would receive it, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? If I know there's a lot of shops who have personnel that's wearing multiple hats. So as long as the key thing for us was just having the record keeping, right? That we actually knew what material was what was requested, and then a confirmation that it was actually delivered.
Trevor, I have a question. So in that Fast Field app that you were showing us, you put a note in there that you needed however many sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. Is that the way that app actually works for you? So
Yeah.
they're actually typing in the material that they want. They're not picking it from an inventory list or something? Because the issue I see is that you asked for 3/4 inch plywood. I know that in many shops, that's exactly what people would request, 15 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood. And the response would be, what kind of plywood? What kind of core?
Yeah.
What size? What size sheet? You put in 12 p.m., you didn't specify a date. So
Yep.
the other thing would be 12 p.m., that's not a problem. 12 p.m., a week from next Thursday, 12 p.m., we're good.
Right.
So is that the way that app works? Is it's just blank?
So you can configure it how you want. So another way to configure it is that you can actually import a spreadsheet. So if you have some sort of part record, you can import the whole thing, and then you can have a drop-down list in your form.
So you could preload it with inventory items?
Yep.
Awesome, thank
Yeah.
you.
We set it up that way because we have thousands and thousands of parts, and the record keeping is always changing. And we trained our staff; they're pretty good about filling it out. I mean, mine was a bad example. They'll actually fill out a lot of detail. And if they don't understand it, the receiving personnel doesn't know what they're talking about, they'll actually kick the MTO back, which means they'll walk over to the person who requested it and say, what actually were you asking for? And they'll resubmit it. Okay, so you have this cool form, great mission bell success story, inventory position improved drastically. How do you actually set up that form? Okay, so this software choices are so good now. It does not require IT support to do this. Okay, I actually learned this just through trial and error, and it was actually pretty fast. I actually want to show you guys how we can set up a form, but I'm telling you, if you can get online, if you can do email, if you can do basic things on a spreadsheet, this is something that you can do. Okay, so how am I doing? Okay. Let's go back. So this is the form that we use, or the website, and we have all these different forms. So all I got to do is do a new form. And it's a really intuitive interface. I can title it however I'd like. Oh, God, sorry. I'll just call this one test. And then I can add all these different kinds of options. So a simple way to do it is an option list. And we can say, how was Trevor's presentation? Right? And then we can do add items. And then I'll say, meh. is okay, right? It'll say game changer. Okay. And I dozed off. I was on the bus too long. I got tired. Not dozed off. So that's just one. That's one of the questions. I can do text. What comments do you have? And oops. And then I can save it. So, oops. Test for CMA. Okay. So now I have my simple form set up. And then I can preview it. And this is how it's going to look. Okay? And then I can identify my delivery. How am I actually going to get a notification? So email users. And I'll do it in a PDF form. And I'll mail it to myself. Okay, so I'm done. I just set up a little form. Once the user goes into the app, then they refresh. They'll see this, and they'll be able to fill it out, submit it, and every time a user does that, I will get a message. Okay. So for the sake of time, I was just going to show you how the emails are received, but I think you guys get the idea. So let me stop there for a second. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that using these kind of forms, communication, either within your shop with your install crew, do you see ways where you would be able to apply this in your business?
You know, I look at this as a way, you know, just one of the things, because internally it might be a little different in some places, but certainly as a communication tools for installers, that throughout the day, they can make a list of the things that they need. They need 2 1/4 screws, they need shim shingles, they need this, they need that, and they can create that list and then submit it at the end of the day, and they're not trying to like scribble down pieces of paper or keep it straight in their head and all that stuff, and then they get what they asked for, whenever they asked for it. I mean, I see it as a huge tool, and I see it as a big tool in shops too, not just to, in your case, you're talking about receiving pulling material so that it can get cut in the shop. Right. But another way I look at that is as a way for the guys on the shop floor to requisition materials from purchasing. It's exactly the same thing. It's just used a little bit different way. But how do I get more 3/4 inch plywood? Do I call upstairs to the office and talk to our purchasing agent? Oh, I am the purchasing agent. That right. Kind of stuff. But absolutely.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we're using it. So the app that gets, or the form that gets used the most is for requests for inventory. I think the second most is for the field. So that happens, has happened all the time. That scenario you're describing, where someone in the field will call somebody up and say, I need some stuff, or I broke something, right? And then all this spinning occurs. Who does that person call? Does he call the project manager, the purchasing person? Does he call someone else in the shop? Do they go and get the material themselves? If he actually submits the form, then we have the data to be able to say, okay, why was there an error, and what's the action that we're going to take?
Hey, Trevor.
Yeah.
Over here. Do they pick who that form goes to, or does it go to a set person all the time? Do you set those parameters when you set up the form, that every time you fill one out, it goes to a certain department or location?
So you can set up keywords, so it'll send an email to a specific user. The simplest way we do it, honestly, is just have it go to an email alias, and then we have a particular group of people that are monitoring it, right? So we have an email. It's just called purchasing@missionbell.com, and then every time a person in the shop needs, if it's finishing material or glue or whatever, they just fill out the form, and then all the purchasing staff gets it. Okay. So cost, big question, right? Is it is it some big fancy ERP software? Any guesses on the cost?
$20 a person.
$20 a person?
Yeah.
Free? $20 winner.
I look at the 20 top.
Okay. Good. So no commitment, right? It's not like a cell phone contract. You do get two weeks for free to try it out, like most software, and all you got to do is per user sign up, pay the $20 if you add users and so on, and then if it winds up that you don't like it, you don't have to use it. You can either just come up with a different way to manage this stuff, use different software, right? Like I said, there's a lot of competitors, but no big commitment. Okay, I should mention that what I'm showing you guys, there are 2 steps. One step is filling out the form and receiving the notifications that the form has been completed. The other step is pushing it into a log or spreadsheet. It can be, we use Google Sheets because it's the most interactive and the quickest. You can use Excel or other things like that. So that's $50 a month, but it's not for a particular user, it's for the whole company. Okay? So I don't work for Fastfield, right? This was our experience. Fastfield worked best for us. There's one called Pronto Forms that I researched. Very, very similar. So I encourage you guys, if you think these kinds of forms in order to communicate are helpful and help you to understand data, to look at some of the different options and try them out for free.
Do you know if it integrates at all with CRM systems or through Zapier? Can you use Zapier to send it to the CRM?
You can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. The question was, do these forms integrate with CRM systems or really any enterprise system, if it's ERP or your general ledger? I know that through Zapier it does, because you can push it into all sorts of different databases. It's just that Google Sheets was the simplest thing for us, but you can make it much more sophisticated. Okay, so hopefully I convinced you guys to at least consider this, right? Because again, if you're a shop of one or a shop of 1,000 people, there's benefits for this, and it's easy. It really is. Okay. What's the hard part? Sorry, a lot of text there. This is what I'll just say is getting people to buy in. Okay. So at Mission Bell, we were doing it this way for 58 years. Okay, which is everybody just goes and grabs stuff. Generally, we know what's going on most of the time, and then there was a lot of attitudes and a lot of prevailing opinion that we had to convince to change over to doing it a whole new way. No longer are you in control of your raw material. When you're at the saw and you need a sheet, you can't go over to the inventory area anymore and grab your own sheet. You have to submit this form, and someone has to bring it over to you, which can be really frustrating, especially at the start, right? So that was really the biggest hurdle for us, was making sure that from a leadership standpoint, everyone was supportive. That on the receiving end, the receiving personnel actually executed and delivered that material immediately. So there was no excuses about that this took more time. It added more work for me, because now I got to go in this form. Really have to keep on it at the start to convince people that this form is going to make all of our lives easier. Okay. Next. Okay. So back to our examples. So I talked about how we got through the inventory accuracy challenge. Field install issues. So I already alluded to that a little bit. Big mess for us because and also being a larger shop with a lot of projects going on all at once, it's that much more of a mess. Okay. So these forms allowed the if it's the install person that actually dealing with the issue, the install foreman, project manager, shop personnel, where it maybe was the root cause of the issue, and then also the purchasing staff if they need to buy new material, all to jump on this stuff all at once. We'll call pickups. So we have a separate delivery staff. How would they get notified that they need to go pick up material? You'd think it would be the purchasing staff, but all sorts of people would notify them. They set up a log similar to what I showed you when inventory was requested. Again, using the theme here, now we actually have real data instead of a phone call, a text message. Even just a hallway discussion. Everybody knows what's going on all at once. Okay, similar story with ordering materials in the shop. They had no way to do it, and a lot of these guys, even though they have smartphones, they're not using email very much. So whichever way they were going to ask for material, that information got lost. So, but they can use, they may not do email, but they can all use their phone. So that's why we're able to get them to use a fast field, and then we drastically improve the control of purchasing for shop purposes. Okay. So how do we get the suppliers to behave a little bit better? This was a big one for us also, and I want to show you guys a little bit of the data. So to explain how the process works, so I'm sure everyone in this room has had materials show up and it was wrong, right? It was the wrong quantity. It was the wrong specification, dimensions, whatever. So what happens when that material shows up? What do you guys do? You call up the supplier and tell them it was wrong, right? Okay, you do that. And then the same supplier does it 2 weeks later. What do? You call them up again, right? You say it was wrong. And then you think, well, geez, maybe I should go with somebody else, right? You start thinking about that. So how do you actually gather all that data so that you can make a compelling case to the supplier that maybe you've enjoyed working with over time, but they've fallen off? And you show them, hey, here are all of the issues. What are you guys going to do about it? Okay? The way that we were able to get our arms around this data is that the receiving guy every time would fill out this fast field form and say, who's the supplier? What's the issue? Take a picture of it, and then we actually show that to the supplier. Here are all of your issues over the past quarter, month, whatever time frame you need. So instead of it being an anecdote, that just one thing, there was somebody who did it, they didn't know what they were doing. I got that issue fixed. You can make a compelling case to them that no, it's just not just one time. This is happening multiple times. And by the way, with the other shop that's delivering the same type of material, it's happening a whole lot less. That'll really get their attention, right? That should encourage them to course correct. And if it doesn't, you know that you have the wrong partner, and you should really work hard to find a better one. So one of the benefits of using these forms is that you can put everything that you found in these forms onto a spreadsheet. Okay, so let me show you. Sorry, guys, 1 second. So this here, is the raw data that we have. So I changed these suppliers' names, even though I'm low likely you're going to know any of them, but just in case I wanted to hide their names because I'm talking about all the things that they've screwed up. So we have this by different categories, right? So you guys can kind of see that. And then we have the different types of errors that we've seen when the material shows up. Okay? And again, the way I showed, what I showed you guys before with how was Trevor's presentation, you just go and create all these categories for your person on the receiving dock. And then they pick one. Okay? And then I can look at, okay, let me just look at all my metal shops. Actually, I'll do metal first. So you can see that incorrect quantity, damaged, and so on. Okay, that's one story. Let's look at the wood distributors. So supplier number 5, 11 times they've had incorrect quantities, okay, versus the other guys. This guy here, 7 times they've had incorrect dimensions. So we did this with our supply base. Okay, we showed them these reports, and they say, well, I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me, right? And they actually took time to figure out how to get better. All because of Mission Bell started with this simple fast field form, okay? And by the way, it's the same amount of work for the guy receiving, because he's gonna look at the PO, he's gonna look at the packing slip, look at the material. Does this all match? No. I'm gonna make a call. Instead, I'm gonna fill out this little form. I'm gonna take a picture, hit submit. The email notification goes to the purchasing department, and they send it to the supplier. What are you gonna do about it? So they filled out the form instead of making the phone call, and now you have all this really powerful data to be able to manage your supply base. Okay? So 2 different specific examples. One is how to get control within your 4 walls. We were able to do it using this fast field form. And how are you able to improve the performance of your supply base? Go set up this form, have your guys fill it out. It's not going to cost you any more time. And if you show it to your supply base, they will get better. That was our experience. Questions?
Do you have any examples about how it's actually saving the energy that goes along with each one of these line items on the form?
Yes. So let me. This one I did a little bit of massaging just to make it easy to understand, but the raw data actually shows the link. So this is the raw data here. So this is the same information here: material nonconformance report, incorrect quantity, and so on. Sorry, this is a little hard to read. And then there's an ID that's tied to this link, and I highlighted this one because this is a simple one. Oops, sorry. But it's just a picture of the issue. So you can export all that data into a spreadsheet, and then it gives you all the links, and you can go look it up. So that's actually what is also powerful to show the supplier, right? It might be one thing to say, oh, the receiving guy said the material was damaged, but then when they take a picture, which is required in order to submit the form, the receiving guy cannot submit it unless they take a picture, even if they're taking a picture of a packing slip that has the wrong quantity. When you go show to the supplier, a picture means 1,000 words, right? So the fast field always logs and maintains that data for you. Any other questions? Yeah.
So what do you do about the people on the floor pulling out their form or their phone to send this report, and then they get distracted by text messages and social Instagram and that
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we wound up doing is it depends on the particular department and what their needs are. So if you're install crew, you're using your phone, and we just trust their judgment, right? For our install crew, they're a little more senior, right? They're not going to be as distracted. In the shop, we actually have terminals that are all around, and they use the web app. So they still have access to it, but if they're on their phone, their lead or their foreman is going to get a little bit suspicious. Hey, why aren't you using the terminal, right? So that's kind of the where we wound up landing with how they use it the most effective way. That's a good question. Okay, so last slide. Sorry, every time I jump back into my laptop here to go into presentation mode. Okay, so you guys saw from my background, I've worked in a bunch of really large high-tech companies. And you'd think they have all sorts of fancy, state-of-the-art ways to manage data. This is the quickest, most effective way I've ever done it. And the beauty is that we don't have to worry about the bureaucracy of large companies, right? You have to go through some sort of policy or even with this amount of money at stake, justified budget. You can just go get it done. Okay, and I showed you guys, right, how long it took me to set up that form. What did it take me? 5 minutes? Another 5 minutes to go onto the Fastfield website and sign up for an account. So you can start doing this tomorrow if you choose. Okay, it gives you that data to make you that much more powerful. For us, you get control of your install, get control of our inventory. Improve our accountability and our performance of our supply base. You don't need any extra staff. You need a little bit of investment, and you can get it up and running. So I really encourage you guys to take a closer look at this. If you see any way where you think that someone filling out a form and giving you information will actually help you get better, you could do it. Okay? It's not all, what was the phrase that guy used, like roses and butterflies or something? It's not all roses and butterflies. We have tried to use some forms, and they didn't work. Maybe it was the problem was too complex. Maybe it required a workflow that I had to go through multiple steps. So it was trial and error for Mission Bell. But we have found some real substantial ways that we've saved time and money, and it wasn't very difficult. So, as you can tell, I'm passionate about this. If you want to talk to me about it, I'm here all the rest of the day and evening. I can tell you some more details of why I think it could work for you guys. I really hope you consider it. I think it'll help your shop. Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions for Trevor? Anyone got a mic on that side? Matt?
Monica's yelling in my ear back here.
What?
Yeah, do y'all use anything that simple in other parts of your shop? Like I can see how you could do a similar thing for your own in-house QC or
We do.
For whatever. I mean, do you use that in other areas now, or had you been using it before?
We use it all over the place. Let me see if I can pull up the website again without too much effort. So if I go to the home page, there's a little stat tracker of these are the different kinds of things that we use the most. So last 30 days, we've done 800 submittals of the inventory requests, but we also use it for inventory inspections. We do quality control. We always check the dimensions of our cabinets before we ship them out, fill out forms for that. So, you know, we've honestly been using it in all sorts of ways that we never imagined. But that's really the key is for communication of when somebody needs something, quality control, and also replacing like something that was hard copy, right? Some kind of old school clipboard type process. We got rid of it right away using fast field. Does that answer your question?
Anyone else besides Monica? Did you have a relevant question, Monica? Oh, okay. Anyone else have a question? Let's give Trevor a big hand. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
For those of you who got here late, may not have got something to drink,